This is a 2021 Kawasaki Z900RS in the CandyTone blue, which to me is a standout colour on these bikes. It's a tribute to the 75 Z1s. Come out in this colour that I always loved, and yeah, when I found out they'd brought them out in the RS, I thought, wow, got to have one of those. So nice to get a bit of sun out. Coming off the back of winter now, it's first day of spring, or second day of spring today. So this bike, so far, I've got the centre stand fitted to it. I've got the EvoTech radiator guard on the front, which I think is a necessity to have some sort of a radiator guard on there. We've got the little genuine Kawasaki meter cover on the front. I'm on the fence with that, whether I like it. Every second time I look at it I like it, then I don't, then I do. I was on the bike when I bought it, so I got this, it's only a year old. The bloke I bought it from, I drove it out last April, so basically a new bike. It had about 6,500 Ks on it. It's had its first service, been meticulously maintained. You're really fussy sort of a bike, which was great. Really difficult to get this colour in Australia. For people have told me that it's not even available, but then it clearly is, because I've got one. But it was quite difficult to find, so I think people probably bought them and snapped them up. So I've also got I've put a centre stand on it, because I think that's pretty much a necessity on a bike for me. If you got the luxury of having one, had to buy it. They don't come with them, probably a weight and a cost thing, but happy to have the extra little bit of weight for the convenience to be able to lift the back wheel off, chain maintenance, that sort of stuff. Get the wheel off the ground and spin it for cleaning, or your maintenance stuff. What else we got? We got it's got the genuine Kawasaki tail tidy on there, which comes up pretty nice. Still a bit dirty every time I look at it. See somewhere I've missed. It's got the adjustable suspension there with, I believe it's got preload and dampening. Got fully adjustable front shocks, and to be honest with you, I've just left them as they are and found it to be quite good. But probably the biggest thing that I've done to this bike is the Akrapovic, however you pronounce it, headers, and they just make it sound absolutely amazing. It's got the stock standard muffler here that goes straight onto those headers, fits nicely, but just sounds incredible. Just makes the hairs stand up on the back of your neck. I just love it. But anyway, that's the bike, that's the day, and let's take it for a spin. Let's go for a little bit of a ride around where I live here on the Bellarine Peninsula and see how she goes. Can't get up to much speed around here, but still a nice little ride, just an enjoyable day to be on the bike. Not exactly sure how it's going to sound with the exhaust through the speaker and the helmet, but you should be able to hear it. Sounds incredible to me. I love it anyway. Awesome day today. Come on, Coco. Absolutely love the sound of these things. A lot of people make a point of saying how good they sound with the stock exhaust on these. They've been tuned by Kawasaki to sound good. And look, everybody's got their own opinion, I guess, but they sound better than a normal stock bike, because a normal stock bike now is just that quiet that you can't hear it, in my opinion. But for me, it still wasn't quite the note that I wanted to hear. I love the sound of an inline 4, and now it's yeah, you can certainly hear it now. It sounds awesome. It's still okay without the headers on it, but I reckon best thing I've spent money on so far. Absolutely love it. Got a massive big cat on them, catalytic converter underneath on the standard exhaust system, which is what you need nowadays with the emissions and all the rest of it. But it does a hell of a lot of muffling, and it's a lot of weight added to the bike. The other thing, the original headers, the OEM headers on the bike, they're double skinned. They've got an inner exhaust tube inside that probably does all the discolouring and absorbs all the heat, so the outer skin stays nice, shiny stainless, so you don't have to worry about the discoloration from the heat. But the Akrapovic ones have obviously discoloured a little bit already, and I'm happy with that. It's a bit of a trade-off. They sound amazing. It frees up the exhaust flow a lot, and yeah, just makes it a different bike in my opinion. I've been told it adds around about another 9 horsepower. Depends where you get your information from, but horsepower that this bike comes out with, it's putting you up around 120 horsepower. And I'll tell you what, with the power to weight ratio, it certainly works a treat. It's got heaps of go. Now these are about, give or take, they're about 215 kilos, and I think you're probably going to lose quite a few kilos out of taking the original exhaust off too. So your power to weight ratio increases with the exhaust pipe, the exhaust system, and not only does it sound great, it goes a fair bit better. And yeah, the hardest part is just driving it sensibly around the roads, because it just wants to go. It absolutely loves it. Quite difficult to behave yourself. I normally run an external mic on this to get the exhaust note on this GoPro system, but because I've only just got this bike, I haven't done much yet. I did one little ride there a couple of weeks ago, down through the Otways, the back way into Lawn, and had the external mic on there, and it was a bit loud for the mic. It broke up the sound a few times, so I've got to redo it. I had to cut a lot of the video out because the microphone was just breaking down. But that was a great little ride down through the bends and things, but the centre of the roads were all green from the moss and the shit growing all over the roads from the winter, the wet roads all the time, so couldn't really do much. Just had to take it nice and easy. Nothing quite like laying a bike over on a green road. Don't have the confidence in it. The other thing's the tyres on this bike. Everybody, well, the vast majority of people, from what I can tell, don't have a lot of nice things to say about the tyres, and to be honest with you, I haven't had a problem with them. A little bit of riding I've done with it so far, I find them to be quite good. In saying that, I'm sure there's better options out there, but I don't ride the bike to the extremes that probably a lot of people will, so a general run-of-the-mill tyre is probably going to do everything I need it to do. But I'll be looking at what better options there are when it comes time to change them. So this is, like I said before, this is done, well, it's done about 7,000 k's now. So the tyres are going okay. I think the fella I bought it off, he pretty much just babied it. So the tyres last pretty long if you ride them sensibly. Just love the sound of this thing. It's so good in the bends. Like when you, as I say, a few weeks ago when I went down in the bends and it was green and slippery looking on the roads, I couldn't do a lot, but even where I could have a little bit of a play, it was just the engine braking on this thing. It just sounds amazing when you're going back through the gears into the bends and then the accelerating out again. Just love it. Just could do it all day and not get sick of it. and sounds incredible. But even the standard exhaust on it would still sound pretty good in that situation, especially when you get up in the rev range a bit. It sounds pretty good, but certainly a lot different to the system that I've got on it now. So hard because I can't really give it much anywhere. There's low speed limits everywhere. Another thing with these bikes I've heard people complain about, or be negative on in their comments around the throttle. There's a bit of backlash in the throttle. The on and off backlash, you can make it jerk if you really want to, or even if you're not careful with it, it will jerk because it's so responsive. To me, it's not too bad. I found that I calibrated to it fairly quickly. Yeah, not a concern at all. Apparently with the remap, if you do remap it, you can get that sorted out. You know, they can get rid of that cold start. When you first start it up, it's got the cold start. It revs quite high until it gets up to temperature, which is a bit of a pain in the ass, but I think most bikes are going to do that. They can get rid of that in the remap too, apparently, but you know, these things are put there for a reason. They might be inconvenient sometimes, but I'm not really that keen on messing around with too much stuff. When I bought these headers from a place called Dynabike in Melbourne, and the fella there by the name of Mark seems to know his stuff, and I said to him, look, tell me straight out, Mark, I said, I know it's your business and all the rest of it. I said, I want to put these headers on this bike. I said, what I don't want to do is make it run rich or lean or anything else. Just, you know, everybody's telling me something different. From the research that I was doing, you know, a lot of people say it'll make it run lean. Other people actually said it will make it run rich, and I thought, you know what, who do you listen to? So my understanding was the oxygen sensor will pretty much compensate for what it needs to do. So it will protect the engine as far as that goes anyway, so you're not really going to do a lot. So, you know, I haven't done anything with the airbox, haven't done any mods with high flow filters or anything like that. Probably look at that down the track, and once I've done that I may even consider a remap, but at the moment it's got the factory mapping in it. And anyway, getting back to my question to Mark at Dynabike, when I said to him about it, he said, look, honestly, he said, it's not going to run rich or lean. He said it'll do exactly what it needs to do. He said the oxygen sensor is there to give it, you know, live feedback all the time as far as that goes. So that was good. That put my mind at rest as far as that goes. And he said, in saying that, if you want to get optimum performance out of it, he said we can definitely make some tweaks on it. You know, do a few little things. I think they can increase the top end where you'll get to for the rev limiter, that sort of stuff. And honestly, that's not no big deal to me at all. I'm not going to ride it to within an inch of its life. It's got heaps of go now, more than adequate amount of power, and awesome to ride. My only concern was I didn't want to do any damage to the bike by not remapping it if I needed to, by making the exhaust changes. Anyway, by all accounts it's all good. Like I said, I might look at it if I modify the air intake down the track, see what happens. But all good so far. It certainly runs great. It's a little bit of sort of in the low revs, low around, it might be just over 2,000, somewhere between 2 and 2.5. I think there's a little bit of not quite as perfectly smooth as it could be, I guess, but I don't know, it just adds to it, just makes you ride it. I don't mind that at all. But yeah, I've got no complaints about it. It's heaps of poke. It's got 3 stages of traction control on this, ABS, obviously, which is good. That's one major improvement on the modern bikes. But the traction control, it's got stage 1, stage 2, and off. Now I've done a couple of little wheel stands with stage 1 on. It does seem to, not exactly sure, like it's still early days for me, but I think the must be the ABS sensor or something. When the front wheel comes off the ground, it detects a difference in the rotation speed of the front wheel to the back wheel. Now this is only me surmising what it might be, but it definitely it breaks down the engine. Like it's, I don't know whether it's spark or the fuel or both, but it starts to, almost like you're hitting a rev limiter or something. It stops the grunt to the motor and probably says, hey, that's enough, get that front wheel down again. I'm not exactly sure, but I haven't done a wheel stand with the traction control off, but yeah, when you give it a bit of a squirt taken off, it does want to lift up reasonably easily, which is pretty cool. But yeah, I think to turn the traction control off, you can't do it when you're riding along. You've got to stop. Pretty sure you've got to be in neutral and then select it to the off stage there. But yeah, doesn't really worry me. I'm not out there doing wheel stands here, there and everywhere, so I just leave it on its default position. It comes to number 1. You can probably see it on there, Kawasaki traction control. But yeah, so that's pretty cool. I'll tell you what, there's not much I don't like about this bike though. It's so good to ride, so comfortable, just love it. All the boats are out today. Sounds so good, this thing. Bit of a gravel road here. Don't like gravel roads, but I'm going to take it nice and easy. This is one of the issues with the radiator on the front of this bike. If you don't have that radiator guard, not that I go down gravel roads much, but even just down the bitumen, yeah, you've only got to flick one stone up in the wrong spot, take out the core of that radiator, and you're in a world of strife. So I think it's a pretty good investment. The Evotech one fits really nicely. You've got to be careful whatever you put on the front of that radiator to protect it. I was nearly going to make my own, but got all sorts of perforated mesh and things that you can use. But the trouble with it is the slightest different change in hole diameter or open area in the mesh can make a big difference to the amount of airflow that you've got going through. And because it had all been engineered by Evotech, I thought, I'll stuff it. I'll just spend the money. Wasn't overly cheap for what it is, but in saying that, they've got the right profiled hole, right amount of open area, so you know it's been engineered for it. Yeah, so I've ordered a Chick Design Road Comet fairing to go on this bike. I was on the fence. Like, I really like naked bikes, and I've never been a windscreen fan or a fairing fan, but something about them on these old old style Kawasaki's, or old new Kawasaki, but they do look good. Like on the ZRXs, I like the little fairing on the ZRXs. The little tucked in sort of tight fitting little fairings. I quite like them. I'm not a fan of the big full fairing sports bikes, but once again, each to their own. But I do like the little fairings on these. So I looked at several different brands and types. A lot of them I didn't really like, but this one particular one, the Road Comet fairing, looks really good, I reckon. Ah, shit, more bloody gravel, I forgot. Oh well. Yeah, so I've ended up, I've got on the website for a place in Japan called Samurai Rider, and they've got these fairings over there. Got some really good photos of them in different colour schemes, so I can actually buy that fairing with this exact colour scheme, with the blue and the gold stripe. I think it's got the white pin stripe as well to perfectly match the bike, so colour coded exactly. Biggest trouble with it is, well, firstly, they're not cheap. It's going to cost me about $800 Australian to get it here, but the worst part was 7-month wait, they told me. So in the end, I think I paid 50% up front. Hang on, did I say 700? I think it was 800. I paid $400 deposit. I got another 400 to pay. But yeah, I'll tell you what, they look awesome. And if I did change my mind, it's only a couple of screws. You can put it on, take it off, whatever. You get a bit of a bracket that moves the master cylinder a little bit, I think. It must clash just here somewhere, so they give you, pretty sure you get a bracket just to move that a little bit. Yeah, so looking forward to that. That'll be a few months away yet, but wow, fun as the shit cart has had out there today. Yeah, so I've got the grab rail coming for the back of the seat and the fairing, and I think that's going to be it as far as accessories on this bike. Might end up doing an air filter, maybe a K&N filter or something. I reckon that's about it. I love it just how it is. So difficult to ride on the speed limit. Just wants to go. I need to get a day through the week, a nice sunny day. Get down the Ocean Road, the Great Ocean Road, go for a spin down there. I'll probably do a video on that. Better off going through the week. You've got less people on the road. A weekend like this down there, there'd be people everywhere. Get a lot of international tourists on the wrong side of the bloody road. That sort of stuff. It's not ideal when you're flying around the corner on a motorbike and some clown coming the other way on the wrong side. So you're better off avoiding it if you can, going through the week. Minimises the risk. So that's Port Phillip Bay, and we've got Melbourne on the other side of it over there. Well, it's actually Corio Bay Outer Harbour, but it's part of Port Phillip Bay. Beautiful part of the world. This is Port Arlington, where we are at the moment. The Esplanade. Love the colour of this bike. It looks beautiful in the sun. Yeah, comfort wise on this, it is very much an upright seating position, ever so slightly forward, leaning forward on the bars. I feel a little bit of my body weight on the bars, but not much at all. Obviously the faster you go, the more wind you get on your chest, which compensates for that, but generally speaking, very, very comfortable bike. What else can I say about the mirrors? Are great, unrestricted view in the mirrors. I was thinking about putting bar end mirrors on it, but I don't think I can do it. Everything about it's just spot on. That's another thing I might do. I might put some sliders on it in case I do drop it one day, something happens. I reckon I'd cry like a baby if I scratched it. So I've come onto this bike from an Indian Scout. The Indian Scout was an awesome bike. I owned it for 3 years, thereabouts, and absolutely loved it. Like, I could never get sick of looking at it, but I certainly got sick of riding it as far as the comfort level. But it was really, really good for short trips in the end. I pretty much tried to convince myself over the course of ownership that I could live with the comfort of it. I put different bars on it, had upgraded suspension, tried everything. And honestly, I don't know if it's my body or whatever. I've worked hard my whole life and I've got injuries and back problems and shoulder problems and things, but whether or not that's what the issue is, or it was more the bike, or a combination of the two, but for me personally, the comfort ended up breaking me with that bike. So very difficult thing to do, but I let it go, and it's worked out really well, because I ended up on a bike that I think I'm way more comfortable with. Well, in a number of ways. It's I love my Indians, don't get me wrong. I've still got the Springfield, love the Springfield, got nothing but praise for the Indian bikes, they're awesome. But the bobber itself, as much as I loved it, it was, as I say, it was just the comfort broke me in the end. I couldn't do it anymore. I do a ride to lawn on a weeknight in the better weather with a heap of mates, and we go down there and back, and by the time I got home from there each week, I was ready to throw it away. I just had enough of it. It was just killing me, and it's around about it was a bit over a 200k ride there and back, so we're not talking huge Ks, huge distance or anything, but it was just so bloody uncomfortable. By the time I got home, I was just worn out, spent. The pain took away the pleasure, if that makes sense. So I'm really keen to start riding this bike down there. I've done one ride down there a few weeks ago, the one on my other video with the green strips on the road, and yeah, awesome bike to ride down that way. It's just, and I got home perfectly comfortable, and admittedly that's not a huge ride, but you know, a couple hundred k's there and back, you're starting to get a bit of a feel for whether a bike's comfortable or not. And so far this thing ticks all the boxes. It's got the sound, it's got the speed, it's got the handling, and it's certainly got the comfort. But yeah, the poor old Scout, I would have loved to have kept it just for the sake of keeping it, because it was such a good bike to look at. But yeah, only so much room in the shed. Beautiful day out there. I hope you can hear the exhaust noise through the helmet in this. I've got my visor down at the moment. It's never the same as when you're on the bike, but that'll give you a bit of an idea. Something about this bike, when it gets between, I reckon, 4,000 and 5,000, it's just got that really nice, like, you're not revving it out much, but it's just got that nice ballsy sound to the, I know going through the bends the other day around that rev range, it just sounded awesome. And it sounds, you know, it's equally as good when you rev it higher as well. Like it's different again, but I haven't wrung the guts out of this thing or anything. I don't intend to. I'll give it the occasional squirt, but I want to keep it for a bloody long time. I want to look after it. In saying that, they made bikes like this to be ridden, and ridden reasonably hard, so Kawasaki is certainly all over it. They've been doing it for a while now. Like I had a Zephyr 1100 there a few years ago. For this, pretty much the same reason I bought this. I love the naked, old school style tribute type bikes to the Z900s. Z900's great, but I think, you know, the beauty of the Zephyr was it had better brakes. But yeah, it was a great bike, but nowhere near the go that this thing's got. Didn't look as good, didn't go as good. It sounded great, but this thing's just next level. Just absolutely perfect for me. If you like the old school Kawasaki's, I reckon they're just a really nice tribute to them. Got that same feel, just a lot more poke, better brakes, ABS, and a few little features like that which just add to it. It's funny, when I first found out, I sold the Scout and I thought, right, I'd been looking at these, and I can't remember exactly when I found out that this colour was available, but I noticed I was probably doing reviews on YouTube and saw them in Europe, America, and then yeah, I didn't think that there was any around in Australia. It seems to happen every now and again. Certain colours will be released in different countries and not here, but then somehow I found one. I think, and I ended up, long story short, I found this one on bike sales, and I couldn't believe it. And anyway, I think before that I spoke to a couple of dealers and I said, look, what's the go? I found out it's called the CandyTone Blue, and rang a couple of dealers and I said, what's the chances? Because bearing in mind this is 2023, and this bike was released, well, this one's a 21, but predominantly they were a 2022 model in Australia. They did this colour and another colour, I can't remember what the other one was, might have been black or something. I know it was like a British racing green with a silver stripe, I think. Anyway, I rang a couple of dealers and I said, oh yeah, I know what you're talking about. Nah, they didn't bring them out in Australia. I said, are you sure? Yeah, no, they definitely not here. Anyway, then I stumbled across this one on bike sales, this particular bike, and I was talking to the bloke about it and this, that and the other, and then he was starting to and ah whether he wanted to sell it, and I'm like, oh bloody hell, here we go. So anyway, I rang up a couple of dealers and I said, look, what's the chances that there's any of these things in your network in this colour still? So I'm really keen to get that particular colour. And then of course they do what they do, and they, oh, what about this one and what about that one? We got this one. One bloke even said, oh, we could wrap it for you. No, I don't want the bloody thing wrapped. I want that particular bike in that colour. Is there any in your network? You know, is there, I don't know whether they've got some sort of a website that they can get onto that tells you what's available in Australia. Anyway, I get this one particular bloke somewhere up around Sydney on the east coast, dealer, Kawasaki dealer, and he said, yeah, he said, what colour is it? And I said, it's called Candy Blue, or Candy Blue Tone, or CandyTone Blue, or whatever the hell it is. And he said, nah mate, nah, you're chasing a unicorn. I said, are you sure? He said, yeah, nah, not in Australia. He said, you're thinking about the green. He said, we call it green, it's candy green. I said, I'm pretty sure it's blue, mate. And he said, bearing in mind this bloke's a dealer, and anyway, I said, are you sure? Maybe you just didn't get any at the time. I'm pretty sure they were released in Australia. And he said, no, mate. He said, you're barking up the wrong tree. He said, you're chasing a unicorn. There's no such thing. Righto, thanks for your time. Meanwhile, I've gone back and bought this off old mate, and yeah, there was actually another dealer as well that said there was no such thing in Australia, but then I actually spoke to a dealer in Adelaide, and he said, yeah, we definitely sold a few of them in that colour. I thought, well, there you go. So I'm actually interested to know exactly how many of these are in this colour in Australia, but yeah, it was a bit surprising. There's obviously a few out there. I haven't seen another one on bike sales or advertised anywhere else privately. So yeah, I had a bit of a smile to myself when it's sitting in the shed and old mate's telling me that no, you're chasing a unicorn. But anyway, geez, have a look at that. What a day. More boats than you could poke a stick at. Might do another little walk around in here. Perfect spot for it. Yeah, so needless to say, I was pretty damn happy when I got hold of this one in this colour, because if I couldn't have got this colour, I don't think I would have bought one. I never would have been happy. I would have been always thinking, oh shit, I wish I'd have got that bloody blue one. Because I always loved the 75 Z1s to come out in this colour. Colour's subjective though. They do. I reckon it might have been a 2020 model. They come out, I think it was 2020, don't quote me. They come out in a candy green with a yellow stripe. Really like that as well. There's one in Tassie I was looking at. Alright. Have a look at that. What a weapon of a thing. I do like that little meter cover, or they call it a meter cover. It's like a short ass little fairing thing on it. I reckon they'd look a bit better if it went under the light as well. If I was designing that, I would have come out a little bit under there. But anyway, still pretty cool. Dust and shit all over it now for going down that dirt road. Yeah, so the grab rail I'm going to get goes from here up around here, like the old school ones. The one I've ordered is actually 7/8 thick. I reckon some of them are 3/4, and this one's 7/8 or 22mm. And where the brackets are off the bar that goes in here, the thing I like about this particular one, it's got a hole in that bracket. Now the genuine one that fits under here, it's just like a scalloped around bracket, and it doesn't look like you could put an octopus strap on there or anything. One of the things I like about the one that I've bought is the bracket that goes in under here, it's got a hole in it, so you can put an octopus strap in there as well to stop it sliding up because it's on a curve. But anyway, we'll see what happens when I get it. Sometimes I wonder whether these would look better if they were black. You can see the discoloration in those header pipes there now. Started a bit, but I don't reckon it looks too bad. It almost matches the gold stripe on the tank. Nice twin disc front end there. Brakes work really well. Probably that's another thing I probably should mention, but the Scout that I had had really good back brakes, and they did say that to me when I bought it. And I've noticed a big decline in the performance of the back brake on this one compared to the one on the Scout that I was used to, but yeah, not too fussed about it really. It's probably just me. Different bike. Might even be able to adjust where the lever is. It might be more me than the bike, but the back brake doesn't seem overly fantastic. Oh mate, we better be quick. So this place is called St Leonard's on the Bellarine Peninsula.
I had the missus on the back of this the other day, and yeah, she was reasonably happy on here. She said it was pretty comfortable. Been used to the Indian Springfield though. It's a bit of a, when she's got the big, you know, she's got feet platforms and the backrest and everything on that, it's a bit of a stretch to get something to compare to that. But generally speaking, she said it was fairly comfortable. Shit, this thing sounds good. Funny, the whole time I had the international, the whole time I had the Scout, I really craved, I still craved the sound of an inline 4. It's bizarre, really. I think I just missed it ever since I sold the Zephyr. The Zephyr I had a Yoshimura system on it, and it sounded really good. So hard to behave yourself. That was the thing, actually. The bloke I bought this off, that bought it last year, he was telling me that he was the same as me. He wanted this blue, CandyTone blue, and he looked for it for several months. He had to wait several months to get it, and that was when they were about. So yeah, it's interesting. I'd love to know, once again, I'd love to know how many there were released in Australia in this colour. One of the dealers actually said to me, he said, look, we generally get whatever's left over from the US and Europe, but I don't know. I don't know whether that's true or not. I think they have different spec bikes and everything over there, so yeah, I'm not sure. Sort of take that with a grain of salt, but either way, I was just pretty damn happy to eventually get one in this colour. It's funny how it goes. Like even the Zephyr 1100, when I had that, they were incredibly popular in Japan and parts of Europe, but they never really took off in the US and Australia. So it's funny how the markets must differ. You get all different colour versions of them and everything overseas, but over here I think they only ever released them in the like a red colour, and oh, there was something else I can't remember. Just a perfect day for a ride. Oh, another few degrees warmer would be nice, but can't complain. 15 degrees at the moment, it's not too bad. A bit rugged up under the jacket. Such a comfortable bike, it really is. The only real gripe I've got with it, to be able to go for a ride, is I've got nowhere to put anything. Like even when I had the Zephyr, under the seat on the Zephyr I had a little bit of room for little bits and pieces. This one's, yeah, she's pretty much chockers. One of the reasons I want to put that grab rail on here is so I've got one of those little tail bags. I'll be able to stick that on there just to be able to take absolute basic stuff. Not the sort of bike you want to put saddlebags on or anything, it'll look ridiculous, I reckon. But that was one thing that I do miss on the Scout. I had the little leather saddlebags on that, and it's surprising how much you can fit in them and what you use them for. I use them pretty much every time I get on the bike, I think. And now that I've got nowhere to put anything, like if I get too hot now and I take my jumper off, where do I put it? I've got an octopus strap under the seat. I guess I could strap it on somehow, but then there's nothing even to hook the octopus strap on at the moment, not until I get that grab rail. So I think when these come out with the original the rear mudguard holder and everything, the number plate holder, they had a couple of little loops on there for octopus straps, I think, but because I've got the tail tidy fitted on this, they're gone. So, but anyway, that's nothing, no big deal at all really. So now we're about to head down to Queenscliff. Yeah, I'm really keen to get this on the twisties on a nice warm hot day when the road's nice and dry. No green rubbish in the middle of the bitumen. That's the trouble, coming off the back of winter. A lot of the roads, especially particularly when you get down through the rainforest and things where we've got some really nice riding fairly close to home, it's always wet down there, so you got the green mossy stuff growing on the road all the time. Take a few hot days to sort it out. Some parts down in the Otways, I don't think the road ever really dries out. It seems to be wet all the time. I haven't scraped the pegs on this yet. I used to do that every single time I got on the Scout, I reckon, when I went round the corner. That was the other thing I didn't like about the Scout, just didn't have the ground clearance. Still good day, still a lot of fun. But it's nice to be able to lay it over properly now. I think I've lost a little bit of ground clearance by putting on the centre stand on this. But I'll be interested to see how far I can go. You know, if you're throwing up sparks, you're having a bit of a go. So this is the opening to Port Phillip Heads. And that's every man and their bloody dog that owns a boat. Except for this one. Oh, look at that, there's no swell out there at all. Now they forecast 2 metre swell today. Not that I would have gone, it just annoys me. Between that point over there and that point over there, you've got Point Lonsdale over here, Point Nepean over there to the left,
incredibly dangerous stretch of water. That's where I'm looking at the swell out there. Not worried about in here, but out there through the rip. They call it the rip. Very, very dangerous bit of water. What a day. Go on, Coco.